y'all recording so.
Oh, we're
Oh,
good.
no, we're good.
Is it currently recording?
Is that one red too? Oh, no.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
And action.
Wrong, because we didn't clap.
Ha.
Joke's on you.
Action.
That's a stomp, not a clap. What do you think we are, Kurt Franklin?
Clap. Action.
Oh,
There's a
my
quite the
bad.
echo in there. Okay, so this episode talking about
me to
secular
introduce?
music in the church. Okay. Yeah, if you want to introduce, that's fine, because I did it last time, brother.
Welcome back. No, I'm just kidding.
Whoa,
Welcome
okay, so
back
I'm
to
gonna
another
clap.
exciting example. I mean,
You gotta want me to clap.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
gonna clap. 3 seconds. I'm gonna do the then point to so.
Welcome back to another exciting podcast with Northside people. Peeps, I messed that intro up. It's okay. It's all good though. No problem.
It's all good. It ain't no big deal.
Yeah, I thought about so many words in my brain, and my mouth decided to, pick which ones that it would like to shove out the mouth hole. And it
You
just
will be
didn't work.
chastised after this episode.
Yep, I failed. I had all that time to build up, all that time to prepare, but it just
Waterboarding
didn't-
or cat of nine tails?
Wow, both sound
Both.
fantastic.
Oh, you heard of me once. Both
Wow.
done.
Oh, well, I think you survived waterboarding. I don't know about cat of nine tails. That's a
Depends on
very
how
painful,
badly.
painful death. But anyway, so we're talking about secular music today. It's hard sometimes. We have to focus ourselves in. There's something shiny that'll happen, and we'll just start chasing it and
Just a touch of ADHD.
touch of ADHD for sure. But we're talking about secular music versus Christian music, and is it okay to listen to secular music at some point? So I think you had some pretty good thoughts on it as far as what you thought.
Well, and I don't know if people think they're good thoughts, mind you, whatever. Which let's go ahead and put it out there. Like, let's all be honest. Everybody who's watching this and everybody sitting at this table listens to secular music. Let's just go ahead and get that out there. If you say you don't, you're a liar. You know you listen
Well,
to George Strait.
I'll tell you what. Yeah, I'm listening to George Strait.
I know you listen
George
to George
Strait is
Strait.
great. He is country royalty. He's
He
the
is
king.
the king of country.
And country music today is not country music. I'll die on that hill.
Yes, that's a topic for another day.
Yeah, time for another.
But no, I mean, it's one of those things too. Like, again, there's fine lines depending. Obviously, Christian music is Christian music, and even some of that isn't always necessarily good. We talked about that a little bit before too. But for example, like, George Strait, we were joking about George Strait and all that stuff, and most of his songs are pretty good. There's not
Check
necessarily
yes or no. I saw God.
check yes or
today,
no.
so-
I mean, those aren't necessarily bad songs, just because they're not particularly Christian music per se, doesn't mean the message behind them bad. Now, are all of his songs appropriate to listen
We'll
to?
have him on next podcast episode to interview him. No, I'm just kidding. We don't have that kind of pull.
Say we're gonna have to do a lot of fundraising.
So we're
for
really
sure.
going to fundraise.
I'll tell you what, for me, for example, I listened to one song recently, and I listened to, you can call her country if you want to, I guess. I don't know if you would agree or disagree if she's country or not. But
I know where you're going.
there is a, sorry, I got our TV, went off with the thing. So I had to,
Technical difficulties.
got technical difficulties. But anyway, so there's a country artist, again, if you want to call her country or not, depends on who you ask, that I listen to, and her name is Casey Musgraves.
Oh, I thought you were going to go the Beyonce route. I was
Oh,
fully
no,
geared
no.
and prepared to shoot you down as country. I know it won country artist, or what is it, country something of the year?
Yeah, she got country album of the year.
That's what it was. I was like,
Yeah,
I
country
was
album of the
cringing. I was getting ready for Beyonce. I was like, no.
Hey, this ain't Texas.
Oh,
Ain't no hold 'em.
No, no,
He hates
please.
that song.
I hate
He
that
hates
song
that
so
song.
much.
But no,
It's catchy,
Casey,
but I hate it.
It is catchy. It's really, really catchy. But no, Casey Musgraves, she actually won a Grammy several years back for Country Album of the Year.
Oh, okay.
Great album, by the way, too. Maybe some of the messages aren't exactly great, but I mean, great album nonetheless. But she has a newer song. Her newest album is called Deeper Well, and the song on there, it's getting a lot of attention. It's called The Architect. And essentially, a lot of the lyrics are talking about like an apple, the way it's designed, or simple in design and sweet and divine. Can I meet the architect? And that's like the big question that she's asking in the song is, can I meet the architect? Because she talks about how an apple is, then she gets into like the Grand Canyon. Doesn't necessarily call it the Grand Canyon. She's like this, cavern that's been made. Was it made by a flood? Is it like paint on a wall? Like, was it designed to be that way and stuff? And then again, goes into the chorus, and at the end of the chorus, it says, can I meet the architect? And you think, as it's going along, like, oh, she's talking about God as being the architect or whatever. Well, the song goes along and it gets towards the end, and she's like, do we get a say in this whole mess of like, I guess what life is? And she goes, the very last thing she asks on the song, she goes, is there an architect? So it's kind of like, it's not necessarily talking about God. Like, you kind of get that sense from it a little bit when the song begins, but then when you get in, it's like, is there an architect? It's like some of those songs like that, sometimes it's almost like, people in life, we're all searching, right? We're all wanting to know, like, what's really the meaning of life? What's the purpose? Why am I here? Stuff like that. And I think that song, with it being a secular song the way that it is, it's asking that question in a sense, you know, like, is there an architect? Is there something greater that, you know, makes the apple the way that it is, that makes, you know, the Grand Canyon the way that it was, or was it just by accident or happenstance? You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's kind of asking that question, like, you know, is there an architect? Is there something bigger than us? Or is it just something that just kind of happened as life has gone on, so to say? And I think with some secular songs, kind of like that, for example, they're not necessarily, I guess, wrong to listen to, because again, it's almost like the theme of the song is like, you know, the big question of life is like, is there like a creator? Is there something bigger than us that caused all these things to happen? And for me, a lot of secular songs, like when I listen to a lot of them, I kind of try to, like, I don't want to say reverse engineer it, but I like listen to the lyrics like pretty intently to see kind of like a message that you get from it. Cause I've used some secular songs like in some of my sermons before because of certain lines said in it, and what it's asking, like probably one of my favorite secular artists that's out there, her name is Poppy, and people probably remember Poppy from years ago. She had like these weird videos on the internet. They're like, what the heck is this? But she's gone into like heavy metal music and stuff like that, and she has one song called Blood Money. And again, it's heavy metal, so a lot of people are like turned off by it because they listen to it like, oh my gosh, it's the devil, you know, stuff like that. But there's one song, it's called Blood Money, and in the song, she says, keep telling yourself that you've been playing nice, then go beg for forgiveness from Jesus the Christ. And obviously her intent of the song is not to, you know, make you think
specifically.
Yeah, not bashing, not making you trying to think deeply theologically. Like that's like not the intent. I think more than anything, she's probably like almost taking a shot at Christians, you know, trying to say like, oh, well, it's fine because I can just go ask for forgiveness. Yeah, kind of like hypocritical stuff like that too. I'm like, but to me, I listened to it and I thought about it as like a deeper meaning. Like, even though that wasn't the intent, I thought about it that deeply. I'm like, there is a lot of times, you know, probably in our lives, in the Christian life, where people like, oh, well, if I just keep telling myself if I, you know, do enough of this and do enough of that, it's okay. And if I kind of mess up, I'll just be like, oh, I'll just, you know, kind of ask Jesus for forgiveness in that sense. And that's one of the songs I used in one of my sermons one time. And I was like, you know, with it being the secular song that it is, and not necessarily probably being put out in a positive spotlight for, you know, the message behind the song, but like you take a snippet of it like that and kind of look into the song in the broader picture from what you hear from that. That's kind of how I started to think about it. I was like, you know, there's a lot of times it's like, you know, you keep try to convince yourself that you're like living a good spiritual life for Jesus, and then you turn right around and it's like, oh, Jesus, you know, just forgive me, you know, whatever, all that kind of stuff. So I think there's some songs that, again, it may not necessarily be, you know, something maybe you don't want your kids to listen to or something like that, but at least in how my mind looks at it, sometimes like I'll think that way and I'll hear like certain lines like that and I'll be like, huh, kind of makes you think about, you know, our lives, how we live for Christ and stuff like that too. Now, not every song's like that, but that was just kind of two examples, like how one is like a country song and it's like, you know, is there an architect? Is there a creator out there, you know, sort of deal. And kind of asking the question like, you know, what's my purpose in this life? What am I supposed to be doing? And the other one's like kind of throwing, maybe not the intent of it, but kind of throwing a shot at Christians like, oh, you guys want to play nice and then just go ask for forgiveness afterward and think that you're a great Christian or something like that. So it's like, you can hear some messages in secular songs if you listen to them. Now, I don't think that's ever anybody. That might just be me. Like maybe I just overthink songs sometimes. But I mean, there are songs out there too that probably aren't. I mean, there's some songs that like Poppy will sing that I know I was like, ooh, I definitely do not need to listen to that. You know, but there's other songs of hers that I will listen to. Same thing with Casey Musgraves. Like there's some songs like, man, this is, you know, a great song. I think
discretion is definitely important because like I absolutely love country music, but I will say for even past like 90s and before is I would say my preferred. Obviously I do like a few different artists here and there, but there is an emphasis on like drinking, being sad about losing, you know, a girl, like stuff like that. So there's different things. You have to kind of take it with a grain of salt, I think, when you're picking stuff to, you know, listen to. But like one of my favorite things is Randy Travis, like classic, legend. Probably a second runner to, you know, King of Country. I mean, some people might argue that, you know, obviously Alan Jackson, that whole crowd. But I love, you know, Forever and Ever Amen. I love Three Wooden Crosses. Like those just have great messages. But at the same point in token, not to, you know, I probably will never meet Randy Travis. I'd love to, but there are some songs that aren't especially great that have some, you know, pretty problematic stuff in it. So you have to kind of pick and choose. One of the things I do with our kids is before we watch any movie, whether it be Disney whatever songs, I always pre-watch it or, you know, preview it just to make sure it's like, all right, is there any problematic things that would affect my children in their development? Or is there something that's unbiblical or where they're openly mocking Jesus? And there have been a few people within, you know, characters within movies and, you know, even songs. Holy cow, that was loud.
The truck went by.
Truck just said, just went by. And so like I check into those things to make sure they're consistent with our belief system. And like if they're mocking Jesus, then it's like, okay. Because I've heard some people say, Jesus, mom, or say it like that. But obviously it's just like, okay, yeah, no, we're not using like that. That's where I draw the line. It's like, or they're, I think it was, what was the Disney movie? Well, regardless, they were talking about like, you know, strippers and stuff like that. And obviously that's not appropriate to my 4-year-old. And so
you wouldn't let Kaylin listen to T-Pain's Buy You a Drink?
No, I would not. I would not let her listen to T-Pain's Buy You a Drink. But like, so some of the things I do let her listen to, and I'll even like challenge some people on Barbie. Like she loves Barbie. If you listen to that Barbie song, that is a pretty bad song.
Like the Barbie girl song?
Yeah, Barbie girl.
I'm going to be honest. Like I know like the I'm a Barbie girl, but outside of that, I couldn't tell you like
there's a lot of a double entendre on that. And so like, I know it's a big word, but what it is like, it has two different meanings. So like, I don't want to get into too many details, but say you say something that sounds innocent, but it just sounds right on the line of being dirty. That's kind of what a double entendre is. And so it's just like, I think we should avoid those sort of things.
And the Barbie girl song,
now that being said, yeah, there's a cleaner version. Yeah, it tiptoes the line. Listen to it.
I'm going to go listen.
Yeah, listen to it. Like it's kind of like Fancy. You know, the Reba McEntire one. It's like that one is, you're like, as a kid, you'd sing it, Fancy, Don't Let Me Down. And then you listen to the song, you're like, it's like, oh no, Fancy. Oh no. But you know, Fancy, no. Fancy, no. I didn't know that's what's going on. So you have to be very, very careful no matter the genre. And we talked about last episode about, I told you about that, was it the 1 to the 3 to the floor, everybody getting tipsy on the dance floor, but then like Teasy, whatever. And he did the Devil Took a Shot, but he missed me.
Right.
Like, and it's so good. I listen to that one constantly. And so like someone will hear me sing, they're like, are you singing a secular song? I was like, haha, nope, gotcha. I was like, this is the song. It's fantastic. So yeah, you have to definitely.
Because I know a lot of times too, especially as angsty teenagers like we were, and even adults now too, like a lot of times people will like make their song selections like based off their emotion, like what emotions driving them at that
again.
moment.
I didn't feel sad enough. I need to go back.
Yeah, like there's been songs like where you might be feeling like angry or like sad about something, so you like pick like the saddest song possible.
It's raining
like
outside, and you've got the windshield, and you're just like looking out like the main character.
Cold, I'm wondering why.
Right.
Yeah, one of the songs like
you're
that.
In a movie.
But people, it's like you're sad, and so you specifically are choosing like these sad songs to like boost that emotion more. And
you lost your girl, so you're gonna pick a certain country song to listen to about losing your girl and being
like,
sad.
If you're sad, why do you want to boost that emotion? Right. Why do you want to feel more sad? I want to
feel cheery. Look, newsflash, back when I was a kid, I broke up with someone, you know, past girlfriend, and I listened to country. I was like, this is not the genre in this day and age to listen to that one. Listen, it does not help it out at all. So
I'll tell you what's so bad. I was like, you know, into this one girl for a long time when I was in youth group, and I made her, I hate to even say now, I made her a mix CD.
I made a mix CD for my wife, but that was my wife. So
that was your wife. This was something totally different. I thought I put like one song on there. I'm like, oh, this will get her. It'll be like the magic of the song will just hit her emotions.
He's a modern day poet.
Yeah, really. Back. Oh, and it was it was a Nickelback song.
Oh, no, which one?
It was more. It was like I love you. You know, it's so bad. I hate to even say it now. My face is probably turning red. Super cringe. It made it worse because it's Nickelback. But don't get me, we love Nickelback.
I do. There's some good songs,
but it just happened to be a Nickelback song.
Is good, and then you know, if today was your last day is a great song.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Message,
but sorry, it just happened to be a Nickelback song, and I was like, oh, I didn't think about
that. Out of all of the millions of songs, but he's like, this one is it.
I thought it would be the one that would just be like, boom, it'll change her emotion, it'll change her mind about me, she'll want to be with me after that. She did not.
Did it?
No, she did not. But we do that though. It's like, and it's generally secular music. I don't know anybody if they're trying to drive up their emotion more to a particular area in their life that they're going to go pick a Christian song to, because obviously the Christian music is going to try to uplift you, encourage you a little bit more, and like bring you comfort and stuff. But for some people, you know, secular music, if they're trying to drive that emotion a little extra, you know, they say that's comforting to them because it's helping them get the emotions out, I guess, or something like that. But if anything, it maybe just like stress you out a little bit. You're still laughing about Nickelback song, aren't you? It makes
me think, because like I'm sitting here thinking about, like, we did a Kenny Chesney song, Me and You. I'm sure if you've heard it.
I know.
You know, I love that song. I'm just imagining if you'd gotten married, it's like, all right, baby, we're gonna hit our song, and then just I love you. Just a silly scene. I apologize.
Every time I hear that song, that's all I think about. I just cringe. I'm like,
well, you know, we talk about heartstrings. I'm just like, It's like,
I ruined that song for myself after that.
we ruined ourselves.
And I got shot down.
You know,
in the
it's the other
meantime.
worst thing, and I know this is a bit of a rabbit trail, is like when you put ringtones as your wake up, and you
Yeah.
hate that song because you associate it with waking up.
Well, that's like if I get into my car and plug my phone up, the very first song it plays is Able by Need to Breathe every time, and I hate that song
yeah,
now because
see,
it's
you
the
associate it
first
with
song
it, yeah.
because it's in alphabetical order. So it's the very first song that plays on my Spotify, and now I hate that song because it does that. But
Oh, man.
But yeah, I mean, I know people, and I've done that before too. You know, about you're feeling a certain type of emotion, you want to listen to a secular song, but I guess. To talk about, what we're discussing about, is it good, is it bad? I don't think it's necessarily wrong to listen to secular music. I
don't think so.
I just think it's, and we've
What
talked.
are your emotions going into
Yeah, what are your emotions going into it? What are you feeding
Does
as
it
a result of it?
glorify God? Like if you
Right.
were driving down the road and someone heard you listening to that song, would it be consistent?
I mean,
with what
let's
you're
be
trying to
honest.
say?
Probably most secular music that we listen to, none of it's glorifying God.
Yeah.
Unless you're listening to Carrie Underwood, but not if it's, if it's Jesus Take the Wheel, they're like, oh, that's so great. But if it's, I dug my keys into, that's probably not very uplifting. That's
Yeah, probably
you're
not.
going to
So-
cause some vandalism. So Carrie Underwood's trying to lead you to Christ, but also to
And I
destroy
think too,
property.
it's weird. Is like, and this is again a little bit more of a rabbit trail. I'd say is that we always hold our level of theology to the people that make us feel emotional or spiritual. So like Christian singers, when they turn away from Jesus, are like, oh no, how could they do that? It's like they
Yeah.
never claim to be theologically,
No.
like they're not a leader. It's like, and then people are surprised. It's like, newsflash, some people are singing these songs and they don't actually believe that. They're just
Right.
doing it for a job and just being realistic. you know?
Yeah. Well, that's even like, people have come out about like their faith, and people put like these celebrities on a pedestal. Like, for instance, Chris Pratt, he made that speech at one, award show thing or whatever, like, Jesus Christ, and God and stuff like that. Oh, he's a Christian, but then he's making these movies where he's saying like GD, F-bomb this and all that. And it's like,
Yeah, so observe the fruit for sure, definitely
Yeah.
on that one. So if you're seeing movies,
I mean, we're not saying Chris Pratt's a terrible guy
yeah,
because
not saying he's not a
uses
Christian.
language.
That's
Yeah.
for God to determine. But again, are these things glorifying God? And that's
Right.
the same thing with what you're listening to.
Yeah,
Is what
exactly
you're
the same
listening to going to help you, testify to, and preach
Yeah.
to other people, or is it going to be a hindrance?
Yeah. I mean, there's some songs that you can just listen to and just be like, okay, this is a great song.
Yeah.
And the message behind it isn't necessarily terrible, but it's not necessarily about
Yeah.
God. But I mean, that doesn't make it a bad song to listen to per se, because I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, there's a lot of secular music we listen to that's good, and there's a lot of secular music that we listen to that we probably shouldn't.
Well, it's like Backstreet Boys, the "You Are My Fire." Like, we love that song.
It's a great song.
There's nothing wrong with that. But again, it's not specifically Christian music, but
Right,
it's still a good
absolutely,
song.
but it's still a good song.
I'm gonna get hate for it. I know it. Someone's gonna be like, "The Backstreet Boys are awful," but
Whoa.
Backstreet Boys are great.
Well, then there's the discussion: are you team NSYNC or team Backstreet Boys? Which I think, if we're honest, NSYNC's always been better than the Backstreet Boys.
I don't know. Like, I don't really have I would say a dog in that fight because I like both of them. I'm like,
I mean, they're both good.
and
yeah.
then I know this is gonna sound blasphemous, but I thought they were the same band for the longest time as a kid
What?
because I would just hear them and I'm like, oh,
You
wow,
can
they
just-
sound very similar.
You
See, I
just,
know.
Just get up
Just-
and leave
just
right
take it and
now.
leave. Yeah, just
take
leave-
the
just
headphones
leave now.
off. How dare you, sir?
Well, okay, so just to tell you how bad it was. So I used to think that like Third Day and Casting Crowns sounded very similar for a bit there. So I mean, it's one of those things I didn't realize until
instrumentally
yeah.
wise, I could see it.
Well, I'm a punk kid, right? And so I'm just like listening to the songs. I'm not really looking at who the artists are, and you know of bands, but you wouldn't say you're a super fan of it, right?
Yeah,
so you
sure.
listen to their songs, and then you go back and go, oh, that's who sings that, and then obviously big Casting Crowns, big Mac Powell fan.
Well, I've always been the believer that Third Day and Travis Tritt sound the same. Like
you say that.
voice-wise, not
He
music-wise,
needs to sing.
voice-wise.
What is the microwave song?
Got my rice
yes.
cooking in the
I could-
microwave.
I can imagine him singing that now.
That'd be great. That'd be awesome. But like even stuff like that, it's just a fun little song that
Yeah.
again, nothing's necessarily wrong with it. But
Yeah, that's
again,
not
too,
wrong.
when you're going into it, especially if people know, like if you're living for Jesus, if you're a Christian, and they see you, you're going out like I like a metalcore band called A Day to Remember, and there's some songs that they have where they're dropping, GD and stuff like that. Like if I'm driving my car and I have that song on, and all of a sudden they drop the big old GD in there while I'm driving, somebody looks and they're like, and I got the emblem on my car of the church logo. So if they're looking at that and then they're hearing that coming out of my car, they're like, whoa,
Inconsistent.
like this guy's a youth pastor and he's listening to something's got dropping GD in there and stuff. Like, it's like, again, you got to be careful about
Right.
what you're listening to.
Well,
'cause
so we were at Winter Gym, and obviously, Ann Wilson, you know who you are, Ann Wilson.
big Ann Wilson.
Big Ann Wilson fan. So a little context behind that is like the first time she came, me and one of these students were talking about is like after Ann Wilson went on, we're like, the next artist came on, we're like, we really miss Ann Wilson, and it just kind of became a running joke from there.
Y'all just think she's hot.
Whoa. I am married, sir. My wife is hot. No, it's just a running joke, honestly. He might, I don't know. I'm married, so I'm locked in.
He's a teenage boy.
I'm
He
locked
thinks
in.
she's hot.
I'm locked in. But so she had a song come out, and she goes, this may be the first Christian song you hear where they talk about whiskey in it. And she was talking
Yeah.
about Jesus is better than whiskey. And so you can have some of these things in it that would help
Sure.
you towards it. But, there's those like, I got drunk on whiskey, got drunk last night, punched my dog and my wife. Like that
not
sort of
the
song
dog.
is not good. Yeah,
Obviously
poor dog.
not. Well, here's another thing to throw at you too. Okay, so between secular music and Christian music, we all know Skillet. I have my feelings about Skillet. We've talked about that before in some other episodes and all that stuff. But look at it this way too. So Skillet, they are a rock band. They're also
Fantastic.
a proclaimed Christian band, right? Well, there is one particular album, but they also have songs sprinkled in here and there on other albums that, it's the message is centered in the gospel, stuff like that. But there's also some music that they have that is not. Like if you listen to their Awake album, they have, there's one called, I don't know if the name of the song is exactly this, but it's called "You Should Have When You Could Have." You're gonna miss my love, girl. And it's
I
like
remember
kind of like
listening
a
to that
breakup song, I guess you could call it. So it's like, okay, so if you love Skillet, and Skillet is a Christian band and all that stuff, then is it good to listen to the, I guess what you would call secular songs that they made on the same album, or is it not okay? And it kind of puts that line too, because they are a Christian band, but at the same time, what do you do?
What do you do? All right, pause moment. Sorry.
I'm like trying to figure out how to look at the car without ruining the episode. I'm like, this is going to be
Me
really
too.
weird.
Yeah, I was like, oh no, how do I jump out of this room? Okay.
Gotta
We
jump
only got
out.
like 8 more minutes. Babe, Kaylin.
Sorry, I was trying to do that the best I could. So when you come back into it, just do another clap like that, just so I can just cut that clip off.
Oh, okay.
All right, well,
That in between is not a big deal because I can just cut it from clip to clip. I can just merge it.
okay, we can go. She's pooping, so I'll do this real quick for the last little 8 minutes. What were you talking about? Just a second.
I was talking about making the argument about, Skillet. They are a Christian band, but they have albums where they have, like, I guess what you could call secular songs on there too. So is it necessarily right or wrong to listen to
Right.
Skillet in that case?
I remember listening to that song when it's so funny. I broke up with somebody. I was listening to that song. I was like, I feel the energy off this
Right.
one. Like I feel the power.
So Santa told me to clap and then to pick back up.
Oh, my bad. I thought we were going right back in. My bad. Okay.
He said to clap and then I guess we'll wait and then he'll just edit it to where.
Okay, and so yeah, I definitely can relate to that because I used to listen to that song. When I broke up with somebody, I was like, I feel the energy off of that one. What is the song? You'll Never Be Alone. Like, what is that? Was that?
Oh, Skillet
No,
song?
You'll Never Be Alone.
Yeah,
what's
Whispers
that?
in the Dark.
Whispers in the Dark. So
Yeah.
I remember the context behind that was like he knew someone that was suicidal and
Right.
had some mental issues. He was talking about, he's like, you don't always have to have somebody. You can always have God, like in your aloneness and looking at the maker of the stars rather than,
Absolutely.
being in that stress and the trauma of all that. But that is a great song, and it's a little deeper, obviously.
For sure,
It's
yeah.
talking about more underlying issues and stuff, but it's still consistent in its message. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Because again, even like the last episode that we were talking about, like traditionalism and the modern church and stuff like that, and some people will say like, well, Skillet or Flyleaf or whoever, those aren't glorifying God because it's rock music. I'm like, well, just because again you don't like the style of it doesn't necessarily mean it's not glorifying God and stuff like that. But then again, just because the message also in secular music isn't exactly about Jesus doesn't necessarily mean it's terrible to listen to also. So it's one of those questions you can't give it a specific answer like, is it wrong to listen to secular music? Not really, but it's also not great to listen to some of it either. It's like, again, you got to pick and choose.
Pick and choose.
Yeah, because again, if you're driving it based off of emotion and it's like not making your situation any better, you're trying to hold on to like these emotions, like obviously a lot of the stuff we need to let go and give to God and stuff like that. And we're trying to feed into that, essentially like growing that monster inside of us for whatever feeling that we're feeling that could cause us to potentially sin or to cause harm or whatever stuff like that. That's bad, obviously. But again, you got other songs too, and even kind of like the two songs I mentioned earlier, like not necessarily bad songs, like as far as like whether they glorify God or not, but there's like a underlying message in both of those, you know what I mean? So it's like you can kind of look at some songs that way too, whether it's a country music song, a heavy metal song, a rap song, whatever. Like you just got to be careful.
Well, I think you consider authorial intent, right? So like, what is the intent of the author or whoever's writing the story? So if they're like, I hate you, you're awful.
That's bad.
And it's like they're talking about Satan. It's like, okay, yeah, I can see where you're going. But if they're like, their intent was to say that about God, then it's like, oh yeah, this is definitely not good. So you have to consider that too.
Oh yeah. I mean, I used to listen to a song when I was a teenager and was full of anger. And there was a band called 3 Days Grace who I still really love. And they had a song called I Hate Everything About You. Clearly the message already is being portrayed.
Song, yes.
Already being portrayed from the title. Obviously probably not a great song. It should be listened to or whatever.
Hate is no good.
Hate is no good. Hate is very bad. So it's one of those things that people might, disagree or whatever, like, no, absolutely no secular music. I'm like, okay, well then I better not hear you listening to anything else besides his radio or, whatever that one Southern gospel station is. I think it's like 90.4 because I put it on in our cars for our residents where I work at and stuff, just to give them something. It's kind of their generational, stuff like that. So it's like, so anything you listen to outside of that, you're considering wrong. Like other than that stuff. Well, George Strait sang this song about he saw God today, but it's a country music guy. He's not a Christian artist, so that's bad, right? So it's the intent behind the message of what the songwriter is singing. Like Carrie Underwood has fantastic renditions of like how great they are and stuff like that. But then again, she's also singing about keying up some dude's truck that cheated on her and like causing destruction of property and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, she's fine when she's singing this, but not when she's singing this.
So funny. It made me think of it earlier when you said, and this is again a little off topic. So like my wife, where she parks at work, I guess someone thought she parked too close, which there's just no way with the parking spots. And someone had put, they keyed, "You're too close, I can't." And like there's just this long line down the side of her car. It's just like
somebody really did that.
Yeah, it's on. I have to show you a picture.
Oh
of it.
my gosh,
it's wild. But this made me think of that. I was like, how dare they? It's
how dare they?
Yeah, they didn't have enough time. I guess they saw her coming. I don't know.
I guess so. Well, even too, like, again, going back to Skillet a little bit, like, I don't know. I have my feelings about them right now because, like, they're a pretty good Christian, rock band. Like, they were like the first band when I first started getting into church that wasn't like your typical Christian music. We went to like a winter jam.
I still remember the day that we saw it in the fire and stuff. I was like, wow, this is cool. I was like, this is wild.
Oh yeah, like we went to a winter jam and they started playing. I'm like, oh my gosh, who was this? And there was a girl in our youth group who made me like a Burn CD when that was cool at the time.
Okay.
And it had like Skillet on there.
Was this before or after you burning one for the other girl?
This is way before.
Okay, I was going to say, did you get that idea from her?
No, this wasn't like a love mix CD. She was like, oh, well, let me show you some other bands too. So it had like Skillet, it had Red, it had 1,000 Foot Crutch, bands like that. And that's how I got introduced to like, heavier music that was Christian, so to say. And even then at that time, I wasn't listening to like heavy metal music. I have a friend named Lacey. She really got me into like metalcore and stuff like that like some years ago.
Because of Lacey. Because of
Lacey, yeah. The first band that when I really started listening to, the band's called Volumes. And they're not a Christian band or whatever, but they're like heavy metal. And I fell in love with it, man. It was just so good. So shout out to Lacey for getting me into metalcore and stuff like that.
I would say my first was Skillet, 1,000 Foot Crunch, and a Crunch. 1,000 Foot Crunch and Decipher Down. Those are my
Decipher Down
brought me into. I was like, oh.
I first heard about them. I went and saw Skillet live, and they were the opening band. I'm like, these guys
are they still around? I don't.
Yeah, they are. They still make new music.
Do they?
I don't feel like it's on the level that they used to make or whatever. But what I was kind of like saying about Skillet, like they were great, but here lately, especially after like latest albums, I don't want to get too into it because it could be a sensitive subject for some people. But I feel like kind of some of their messages here lately isn't what it quite used to be. Like, are they still like, gospel centered stuff? Like, yeah, but I feel like they're tiptoeing a line in some areas into the world for certain subjects that I won't get into. And for me, that's not really my style, my thing that I want to listen to in my Christian music or whatever. Like, and just to be honest, it's a little political. It gets a little political, and it's great, have your political beliefs and stuff like that, but to portray yourself as like being a Christian band, and then you're kind of pushing this agenda too. It's like, okay, well, I understand like your intent behind it is supposed to be gospel centered for why you believe this, but at the same time, all of your Christian listeners might not necessarily believe what you believe politically, you know, and you gotta be careful. Again, it's a line you gotta tiptoe. And for me, it's kind of along those lines too. It's like, okay, like some of these songs on the new album are good, and then some of these I'm like, it's just not what I want to listen to. I don't want to hear it.
Because we know in heaven that Republicans and Democrats are separated. I'm just kidding. It's not
They're separated. They won't be together.
This side. You
No,
can't.
I mean, Republicans and Democrats will both be in heaven,
Right.
you know?
For sure.
But it's one of those things.
Definitely.
But again, that's kind of one of those things with Skillet where I've kind of like lately been, okay, these songs are pretty good, but some of these are kind of tiptoeing a line that I just don't want to listen to and stuff like that. Again, doesn't necessarily make it wrong, but it's just not my style or whatever.
So you always got to make sure you know what you're ingesting, what you're listening to. And we talked about in the worship thing, it's like when you're singing along to these songs, are you proclaiming that? And so if you're singing these really bad songs about drinking whiskey and, going from girl to girl or whatever it is that you're talking about or shooting up, I don't know.
And are these songs driving you towards those actions?
Yeah, are they? Or are you, can you consistently ingest those sort of things and then, be a well of a spring of fresh things of the message of the gospel?
I mean,
so
the purpose of Christian music obviously is to worship our Creator, but it also pushes you in a direction to want to live that life.
Right.
Same thing with secular music. Is it pushing you to lead the life of what you're listening to?
Is it edifying or is it taking you in the wrong direction?
Right, exactly. And that's where you got to be careful. So again, secular music, not necessarily wrong to listen to, but again, you got to be careful. You got to have some discernment between what you're listening to, like what's, not necessarily glorifying, but what's, appropriate, what's not appropriate and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, I think we would all admit, like, we do listen to stuff that's not exactly appropriate. And, maybe that's whatever we have to search within our own hearts, within the scriptures for what convicts us and things like that of that nature, because it's not our place to tell you, like, oh, you shouldn't listen to that and stuff, all that. But we are here, and that's why we do stuff like this. We want to talk about, the issues of, what's right, what's wrong, all that other kind of stuff, and maybe kind of help you along your path of figuring out what you feel like you should do as far as like, because we're not going to tell you like, don't listen to secular music or don't listen to this particular band, don't listen to that particular band, whatever. Like, just take what you learn, at least from us, and even do research for yourself. Like, don't take what we say as like 100% truth, because we're humans, Yeah,
read and always check. So I guess a final thought would be, right, is we talked about this too, and I said it a lot just to make sure you feel like I'm just giving you new information. And we talked about it's like, imagine this, you were at church and your pastor got up and there were naked women in the front and he was cursing, he sang all these bad things, maybe he smoked, I don't know, something, and then drank alcohol or whatever. So you're like, oh, that's that's bad, that's not a good mentality for church, that's not where it belongs. But then at the same point, we will drive and go to theaters, we will turn on the radio, and those very things are glorified, and then we think there's not a problem.
Right. We'll watch it in our movies, listen to it in our music. So, like, what's really the difference? Whether it's happening in your church or if you're doing it on your own personal time. Right. There's no difference at that point.
And so if we are carrying God with us, if we believe that the Holy Spirit dwells within us, and then that's the problem. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, is that we need to be selective in what we're ingesting, because we are the body of Christ, and then what pours from us is either going to be something that's edifying or not edifying.
Right, absolutely. So again, take that as you will, do your own research on top of that too, and all that good stuff, and then tune in again next week for another episode of the True North Podcast. We hope you guys, while we're talking about it, we hope you've been enjoying all the episodes that we've been doing. And once again, if you have topics you would like to discuss or have questions, feel free to comment, send us messages or whatever, because we want to be able to answer those questions. That's kind of why
we
we're
like
here too.
good challenging questions to talk about and kind of pull apart. And
I mean, we've got questions that people have like sent to me already before, like some years ago and stuff, that I'd really like to cover, that I know that they want answers to. And if it's going to help you, like, bring you closer to Jesus, or if you're curious about Jesus and maybe help you take a step in that direction, then that's great, and we want to be able to be a part of that and help for sure. So again, if you have questions, comments, criticisms, whatever it is, please comment and message, because I mean, it's what we're here for. We want to be, as glorifying to God as we can. We want to be able to lead you closer to Christ as much as we can, and all that good stuff. So please do. We haven't really got any yet, but we are very much open to. So, and if you maybe want to share more and maybe want to be an episode of the podcast to have some discussion too, we're always open for stuff like that as well. We're still kind of working out schedule stuff wise on top of that. So we're still new at this, okay? We're still kind of getting our feet wet, I guess you could say, even though we've done
except that a good bit of water, episodes. So it's not a good, not a good expression.
Okay, so they're getting their feet wet. I'm just putting my toe in there.
Yeah, you're just dipping a toe.
I'm just dipping a toe. It's uncomfortable. But yeah, thanks again, guys. Again, comment, subscribe. Thanks for checking us out as always, and we will see you next week for the latest episode of
Oh, Northside Podcast. I was like, I didn't know that was the time. You
True
messed me
North
up again.
Podcast.
I messed it up again.
That's okay. He
Bye,
didn't
guys.
know. I was trying to throw him out there. So, but anyway, thanks again. We'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.